It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight, reviews of Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge, King Charles III, Philomelos Shadowlands, and Sheer Madness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle. And good evening, Leslie.
Good evening, Charlie.
Well, year's almost over, but so much happening.
So much theater happening.
Yeah, so much wonderful theater and not so wonderful.
Lots of revivals.
Oh yes, starting with Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge. Apparently it used to be called A View from the Bridge, but they changed
And
the
now,
name.
as you can see,
yes,
it's
now it's
Arthur
Arthur Miller's,
View from the
just like it's
Bridge.
Rodgers and Hammerstein's
Exactly.
Cinderella or The King and
Yes.
I or whatever. Not surprisingly, this play is by Arthur Miller.
Oh.
Yeah, and directed by Ivo van Hove. And how do I describe this? Okay.
Let me count the
Imagine
ways.
you've gone to a fine restaurant and you've ordered the best steak in the house, and it's delicious and it's beautifully cooked and it's choice cut, but it is so smothered in sauce that you can't taste any of it. And that is what we have with this production of A View from the
So
Bridge.
the fine dinner is the play.
The fine dinner is the play.
And the sauce is everything else?
Is everything else, especially the direction. Now,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course, this is about this takes place. The interesting thing is, it's about immigration. So
Yes.
there is a certain relevance.
It was very
that it has
timely in
today.
that aspect. I agree.
You know, the play's, I don't know, like 50 years old or something like
At
that, and
least.
we're talking Italian immigrants. And it's about a man living, a dock worker in America, and he has
in
a
Red Hook,
niece.
Brooklyn, very specifically
In
Red Hook,
well,
Brooklyn, yes.
the bridge is the Brooklyn
Right.
Bridge. Could be the Manhattan Bridge, but I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge. No, it's the Brooklyn Bridge. And played by Mark Gold, and he has...
Mark Strong.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark Strong, excuse me. Mark Strong, and he has a niece, nicely paid by Phoebe Fox, who is 17, and he has an unusual relationship with her in that she acts like she's 8 years old around him, even though she's not. I mean, she'll jump into his arms. I had a niece who did that, but when she turned 13, she did stop doing. She stopped doing it. And she is attracted. At the same time, they are housing two illegal Italian immigrants, and she falls in love with one of them.
Rodolfo.
Yes, Rodolfo.
Played by Russell Tovey.
Yes, blonde, tall, beautiful. Understandable that she would fall in love with him. And her uncle is not willing to let go, and he gets a little obsessed, and things do not turn out well.
I think that your choice of adjective is wrong, because it's not a little, it's a lot. These are absolutely gigantic emotions that he's throwing out all over
I
the
was
place.
being a little sarcastic.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Excuse me.
this.
That was sarcasm, folks. I didn't
Yes,
get it. Okay.
Michael Gould is a lawyer, a local lawyer, who kind of is the overseer, the
Alfieri.
narrator.
Yeah, he
of the play.
he's the Greek chorus, or the
Yes.
Italian chorus,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yes, and it's an interesting look at both relationships and the immigration experience.
Well, there's a third part of the story. Just let me just
Okay.
say that the wife, beautifully played by Nicola Walker,
Yes.
stands back and watches this and is not happy about it.
Right.
So when Rodolfo enters the picture, she'd be very happy
The
to
young
see
man.
Catherine go off with Rodolfo,
Right.
leaving her with her husband, which
Yes.
that's the other part of the story that I find interesting.
And again, this is not a incest type relationship. It's just
I thought it was quasi. I've always thought it was quasi.
it's not. It's at the line, but not
Yes,
quite
yes,
over the line.
yes, okay.
On that. Now, here's the problem. It's the staging is just so overdone.
Well, let's talk about the staging. It's
Okay.
a white box, no scenery.
Right.
It's plexiglass.
Audience is actually on stage.
There-
It's a thrust.
$135 seats to sit on
Yeah.
the stage. They make a point of that
Okay.
in the program. Everybody's barefoot. Nobody's wearing clothes that are particularly period of any period. They're kind of like all dressed from the Gap. But
Except for the lawyer. He's
well, yes, he wears a suit, and I always thought that was an interesting character, but that was in a different version. We'll talk about that. The lawyer does wear shoes, I believe. I don't remember
he's
now.
carrying
Is he
them, I
barefoot?
think.
Is he barefoot? He's never in that.
I think he's carrying his
He's
shoes at
always
one
around
point.
this
Okay,
outside
but
of the
we're a little
box.
low on time, so we have to.
Okay. Well, the point is that So this is not traditional in any sense of even theater.
No.
They're barefoot for no discernible reason. There's
Well,
no reason for them to be barefoot.
Yeah, and plus
There's a bathing scene. There's a
at the beginning,
which is
that's
unnecessary. Or the guys are
a little strange.
The guys are in the dressing rooms, and they're all snapping towels, and they're
Yeah.
So that's understandably why they're barefoot. After
That's opening. That's the opening.
that's
scene.
the opening scene. And Ivo Ben Hova has a history, mostly down at New York Theater Workshop, of doing plays like The Little Foxes, where he had a Velcro wall and everybody threw themselves at it, and some people stuck and some didn't. And then he did Streetcar Named Desire, and had Blanche naked in a bathtub. I still don't get the symbolism of that. I know she takes a bath in the play, but she never took it on stage in any version I ever saw. And then he did a wonderful Ingmar Bergman marriage, the marriage play about scenes from marriage. But this is the hit of London, and every critic in New York gave it a rave review.
Not everyone.
Not me.
I know of two who haven't.
Not me.
But here's the thing: they have a soundtrack. The music never stops playing.
Oh.
It does nothing. At best, it's distracting. At worst, it's annoying. There's this drum. It's like a
It's a
faucet.
soundtrack.
Yeah, it's a force. Well, it's not live musicians. It's dum dum. It's like an annoying faucet, and like shut it off.
And then there's a requiem as well.
Change the washer. You're in
And we're not allowed to say that big last part of what happens, which is maybe why they're barefoot. I don't know. But you don't forget it when you walk out of the city. You will not forget the last moment.
And you have.
But I don't understand why they did it.
And the actors, it's like this. It's like a new wave experimental theater from the '60s. Because one actor is facing this way. One actor, they're talking to each other, but they're facing like this. I had someone described it to me as maybe it's like supposed to be a boxing ring. I don't know.
10 years ago or less, there was a wonderful version I thought that was done with
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yes. Fabulous.
And Bobby Lupone played the lawyer, and for the first time I understood the play.
Right.
It was straightforward. You saw that Alfieri was a guy from the neighborhood who made it up one step, so he wore a suit, and the other guys were still longshoremen. It made sense. It was what Arthur Miller wrote.
I worked like a dog 20 years so a punk could have it, so that's what I done. I mean, in the worst times, you know? The worst, when there was no ships coming in the harbor, I didn't stand around looking for relief. I hustled. When there was empty piers in Brooklyn, I went to Hoboken and Staten Island, the West Side, Jersey, all over, because I made a promise. I took out of my own mouth to give to her. I took out of my wife's mouth. I walked hungry. Plenty days in the city, and now I gotta sit in my own house and look at a son of a bitch drunk like that. But she came out of nowhere. I give him my house to sleep. I take the blankets off my bed for him, and he takes and puts his dirty, filthy hands on it like a goddamn thief.
But, Eddie, she's a woman now.
He's stealing from me.
She wants to get married, Eddie. She can't marry you, can she?
What the hell are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
I gave you my advice, Eddie. That's it.
I understand his sister was in the audience, Joan Copeland. I understand she wanted to get up on stage and kill somebody, but that's just a private little thought. I would give this -1 program. I hated this so much.
I'll give it 2, which
There
is
was
generous.
no exit. It was 2 hours
but-
with no intermission.
Yeah, yeah. Again, certainly not recommended.
Poor actors. And yet, everybody in New York loved it. And watch out, guys, he's coming back with The Crucible. Later in the season, he's coming back, Ivo Van Hove, with The Crucible. I can't wait to see what he does with witches.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
let's
that felt
moving
good.
on. This is kind of a future play. This is King Charles III. I'm going to turn this over to
It's
you
called
momentarily.
a future history play. It
but
says on the cover.
I just want to note that I could not help feeling sorry for Prince Charles.
I've always felt sorry for
Well,
Prince
think
Charles.
about it. He's been trained to do one thing, one job, at a firm that hasn't had an opening in 60 years.
Yeah. Well, I've always felt sorry for him. I didn't like him during the whole Diana thing, but I've seen that he's a good person, aside from Camilla, which is his own mishigas. I won't go there. But this play is about what happens on the day and thereafter that the Queen dies. And the man who's waited 60 or 65 years to take over the job suddenly gets it and is not sure what to do with it, and has very Hamlet-like moments in a play written by Mark Bartlett, Mark Bartlett, is that correct? I want to get his name right.
Mike Bartlett.
Mike Bartlett.
Mike.
In iambic pentameter, so it's extraordinarily Shakespearean, as were the history plays originally, and it's done like a history play. It opens with a requiem, and they all come forward, and they hum, and they have candles, and there's no scenery.
It's very Shakespearean-like, yes.
And all the characters are there. So there's William and Kate, and there's Henry. There's William, sorry. There's William and Kate. There's Harry, not Henry. Harry, who's a redhead, of course, and the girls are all after him. There are henchmen, but they're ministers and whatnot to the king. And then there's this poor schmuck of a king who doesn't know what to do, and Camilla is there.
But he does know what to do, or he thinks he knows
what to do.
he wants. There's an issue that comes up.
Well, we can talk about what the issue is.
And it's an environmental related, and the king apparently is just supposed to routinely sign anything that's passed out of Parliament. Charles doesn't want to sign it. He doesn't agree with the issue.
They want to take away the rights of the newspapers. It's not an environmental
I'm sorry.
issue.
You're right. I'm sorry.
The real guy is environmental.
Yes.
The real prince.
Yes.
Charles. This is about taking away the fourth estate.
And Charles, who knows a thing or two about being abused by the press, opposes this,
thinks that you should have freedom of the press.
Something that the king is supposed to do. Well, that starts a whole brouhaha, and to me, that's when the play hits a few false notes. Number one, all right, I think the idea of doing it in a Shakespearean style is interesting and original, but watching it, I can't help thinking, Shakespeare does it so much better. Number two, to me, and I could be wrong, I think the play hit a lot of false notes. I think under these circumstances, I think Charles would have a little more support from the House of Lords. I know, and I didn't believe it.
Well,
that was the
fine,
problem.
but it's make-believe. You're supposed to willing suspension of disbelief. You're supposed to go with what the play says. So,
but I couldn't, and that was a problem.
Well,
I had a problem with that.
But that's because you couldn't let go of the reality factor, and it's not a real play. It's a future history play. You got to take it for that.
Future history.
I want to say a couple of things.
I don't think the future history is going to turn out like that.
If it didn't have the Shakespearean atmosphere, it would simply be another one of those plays like Stuff Happens, where they take on a contemporary issue, they being the Brits, and take on a contemporary issue and write a play about it. This raised it to a level that was extraordinary. The thing that I disagreed with was having an intermission. Okay. I think it was a little bit long, and I think that's where maybe it got to you, maybe when you think it hit. Because if it had been faster and no intermission, I think it would have taken you with it a little bit more. Now, that's just my...
It didn't, because to me, it's just... Maybe, I'm going with this will be, will happen in the future. And I think, gee, is this really, the way William is portrayed, the way Kate is portrayed, it doesn't feel right to me.
Oh,
even suspending the reality.
I think that the actors who were given the parts for Tim Pickett-Smith played Prince Charles. Yes. Doesn't look a thing like him.
That's okay.
But the demeanor was what was there that was correct. And then I'm going to have to turn to the page itself to find out who all the other people were, because I don't know these
Oliver
actors.
Chris was William.
Okay.
Let's see. Plus there's a subplot, about Harry, and he wants to marry a commoner, and he's willing to throw up everything for her, and at the end she doesn't even want him.
Well, she's a ploy. She's using him to try to get something for herself, publicity, or she's a writer. I don't remember, a journalist perhaps.
Right.
I may have lost it because that was an extraneous subplot as far as I was concerned.
And not a very interesting one ultimately.
But Rupert Gould, who is the
Director?
No, I know he's the director, but I want to say he's the artistic director of the theater company that originally put this on, which was the Almeida Theater. And I just think it's a very interesting thing that he chose to do. And I think Mike Bartlett, who did the play Cock, which wasn't allowed to have its name spelled out in the Times, and that was such a contemporaneous play, to come and do this. I think, and only the Brits could get away with this because they're so well versed in how to do it. I would like to give particular props to the guy, if you can remember the name. Now, you were very good at finding those names, of the person who was the Prime Minister, because I thought the Prime Minister did an excellent job, and I can't find out
I think
who
you're thinking of the Speaker, perhaps, Tom Robertson. He plays Sir Michael.
I guess. I don't know. He played a lot of characters. I thought there was just
Right.
one who played the prime minister. Anyway, I loved it. I would give this. In fact, a friend of mine asked me what one ticket should she pay money for, and this is the one, and she thanked me
I
so
certainly
much.
would not recommend this play.
Oh, well.
I did not enjoy it. I'm in the minority, but I'm also in the minority of A View from the Bridge.
Well, so are we both
I do
on
not,
that.
I would not recommend this. I'll give this like maybe 2.5, maybe 3.
I give it 4.5 unqualifiedly.
No, it did not. It just didn't do it for me.
Okay.
But I will move to a play that did very much get my
It's not a
attention.
play. This is-
well,
this
it's
is
more.
dance.
It's really
It's
a
dance
ballet.
theater.
It is a
It's
ballet.
dance
Yes,
theater.
and this is Philobelus Shadowland.
Philobolus.
Excuse me. And it's a very simple concept. The majority of the ballet, and yes, you're right, it is more ballet than a play. There's no dialogue, and it's all movement, so it's dance. So yes, it is ballet.
Dance theater.
Yeah, all right.
It's not even ballet.
And it's done in shadows. In other words, projecting light on a screen, and it's a simple concept. It's just done
Except
very
that if you look at the
nicely.
cover, the girl, just show her quickly. This little creature with the dog face is a girl with her elbow up around
Yes.
here and her fingers in the air. Unbelievable.
It took me a while to figure out how
Yeah.
she was doing that
Yeah.
because she uses her hand for the dog's ear, and just the way, because it's not easy to hold your.
No.
So this is
And
a very
anyone who wants
talented
to
young
see
lady.
this can go to YouTube and see long excerpts of the show. It's
Right.
charming,
This is
absolutely charming.
Heather Jean Favoretto as the girl.
Yes, absolutely
Basically,
delightful.
it's an Alice in Wonderland-like tale. Girl goes to sleep. Girl finds herself in strange land. Girl finds herself turned into a half dog, half girl, and her adventures. And she.
Well, it's really a takeoff on Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, absolutely.
And she finds herself
Absolutely.
in New York City.
Well,
which is
that's
charming.
like the encore
Yeah.
after the curtain call. She has that, and that is if it were still there, I'd say, and you may run into it at some point.
And what the dancers
stay
do,
for the end.
it's not just the young lady, but all the other dancers turn into the Statue of Liberty and buildings
Right.
and mountains and whatever.
And a unicorn.
Yeah,
No,
whatever.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. A centaur who the dog has a romantic encounter
Right,
with.
very just delightful
Yes.
piece.
Yeah.
I just can't say it's just a sweet
It's
thing.
very creative. It is very well done. Shane Munger directed it. I'm sorry that it's no longer playing, but I suspect.
But you can see it on YouTube.
You can see it on YouTube, and I suspect that it may tour.
It should be an annual. It should come back every
Yeah.
Christmas because it's a
It
perfect thing to
really-
take your family to. Lovely.
Well, except for the fact that the women appear topless at one point. Yeah,
Where was I?
I have no idea, but they do.
Wasn't it quasi-topless? Didn't they have something
No.
on and then they?
No, I don't think so.
okay,
I mean, these are very flat-chested women, so it's
I see,
you don't
okay.
notice it as much as you might normally,
Okay.
and it's
Were they behind the curtain?
done.
when
No, they were not.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
this was
I must have missed that part.
Yeah.
Or it didn't faze me, so I didn't
Again,
really notice
these
it.
are very slim women, so
I
it's
see,
not as
okay.
noticeable as it
Well.
might be, but it does.
Didn't hear any
it's
children
brief,
saying
and it's
anything
certainly-
about
and
it,
it's
so.
certainly not. It's certainly not a significant portion of the show.
Definitely a 4.5,
but it does
wouldn't
exist.
you say?
For what it is, compared, to certain general things, but for what it is, I would say 4.5.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Just lovely.
Yeah. All right. And that leaves us
Yeah.
with a lot of time
Well, it leaves us with fun.
to talk about Sheer Madness.
Sheer madness.
This is kind of a combination of The Mystery of Edmund Drood and Tony and Tina's Wedding.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
Well, what you have...
I know, I
Okay.
understand the reference, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. It basically takes place in a barber shop.
No, it picks it in beauticians. It's
all right.
obviously not a
Beautician,
barber
well,
shop.
no, they do barber.
But it's not a barber shop.
Okay, no, it's not. It's a yes. It's a unisex.
salon.
It's a
salon.
unisex salon.
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
With a very gay proprietor and his staff, and all of a sudden, the police arrive. There's been a murderer. Who done it?
And there are patrons who are getting their hair done at the same.
Yes.
They really got their heads are doused and dried and
Yep,
styled.
yep. And the fun part of this play is that very early on, the audience interacts with the actors. And it's a lot of fun. So, at one point, the salon owner, I think that's Adam Gerber, turns to me and says, "Oh, are you on the Christian dating network?" And then of course he realized I was wearing a yarmulke, so he said, "Oh no, I'm sorry, J-date." And of course I was with my wife, so I just put my arm around it. Not quite. I said,
How did Margie like it?
She had a
I'm
wonderful
curious.
time.
I thought it was a great deal of fun.
She had a great. We both had a really fun time with it. I mean, it's not this great, wonderful work of art, nor does it pretend to be. It's just a lot of fun going to the theater.
Well, a couple of things, though. It changes, as you said. It's like, in that sense, it's like the Mystery of Edwin Drood. Depending on the night you're there,
Yes.
a different person is. And these people are extraordinary in their ability to do
Improvisation.
improv. And so
We vote who done it.
we vote who done it, but there's the whole intermission. They stay on
Yes.
stage and they interact with the audience and they ask questions, and that's where you must have been asking about that.
No, I was asked during the show.
Oh, okay. We were there the same night, I thought. Maybe not.
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
I don't
No,
think you would have missed this.
I would have remembered.
Yeah, you were not there, but I actually spoke with one of the people playing the officers, and I said, "Well, how come you didn't show your badge?"
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, but
And he pulled it out. He said, "Because they were pissing me off." So I,
Oh.
and it's a lot.
But this intermission, this 15 or 20-minute intermission
Right.
of improv back and forth with the audience, and they get a feel for the audience. The audience starts, and they start throwing out, "Well, do you think it was so and so because such and such happened?" And then they ask you to vote.
Yes.
And the audience votes.
Well,
and
that's during the play. During during the play
Act
itself.
Two,
Yes.
I know. But the intermission is where they're asking all these. They're giving clues to the audience as to, well, what did you think about so and so? Well, who
Well,
do
no,
you think?
they're standing outside the theater and doing that.
No, Charlie,
no?
I don't know what you're talking about. No, they're doing that during the intermission.
On
the
stage?
night that I went,
On
yes.
stage?
We went different
no,
nights.
They did it much differently the night I was
Okay.
there.
The night I went, they spent intermission on the stage, talking back and forth with the audience and throwing out clues and asking for things.
Well, the night I did, they were doing that during the play itself. During the
Okay.
intermission, some of the characters were standing outside.
No,
Now
that was
well,
that,
maybe
they were all on
well,
stage.
maybe they improv it every night.
They must. But anyway,
You know.
the point is that once they tell you to come back again because there'll be somebody different the next time. And they're characters of all different ages and all different types.
Yep.
And really, and the young woman who plays the manicurist who looks very coarse, and it turns out to be a very sweet-looking young woman. I saw her a couple of nights later at another show up at 59 East 59th Street, and it turned out that was her company up at 59 East 59th Street. She's the artistic director of another theater, and she didn't look anything like herself on stage. So really, a lot of good work
Are we
was
talking
being
Kate
done.
Middleton? Or?
I wish I could remember it.
Okay.
Not the older woman, the younger woman, but I
Okay.
don't know which is which. I guess it
Oh,
was Kate
then-
Middleton.
then I-
Yeah, it
no,
must
no,
be
then I
Kate
guess
Middleton.
it's,
It is Kate Middleton because
okay.
the other one is named Mrs.
All right. Yes, that's one of the patrons.
Right, and it says here that she's the head of something at 59th Street,
Right.
Ground Up Productions. So anyway, I had a fun time. You did too, evidently.
I absolutely.
So
did.
what would you give it?
Ooh, I'd say 3.5.
Okay, 3.54ish. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
again,
a lot
again
of fun.
for what it is.
For what it is. It was a lot of fun for what it
What
doesn't
it is.
pretend to be anything. It took it 38 years to get to New York, folks. This has been playing in the boonies outside of New York for 38 years.
Well, Beach Blanket Babylon has been playing in San Francisco for
But that
long.
started in New York, didn't
No.
it? Oh, Beach Blanket Babylon. No, I'm sorry. I was thinking vampires of
Vampire Lesbians of Sodom. That
Sodom,
definitely.
That's what I
well, that was
thought
Charles
was,
Bush's
yes.
first.
Yes, that's what I thought you were saying.
big
Oh
hit.
no, I didn't see the other one.
Okay.
So that's it for tonight, I think.
Well, no, I think we actually have time for
We
one.
do have time
We,
for-
we do
to
have
do-
time. So you want to talk about?
Oh, Shorty, you mean just do that?
Yeah, just.
Well,
real
this is
quick.
this is something that's a one-night only affair. It's the Gypsy of the Year. It used to be they got a robe, and this year, and for a couple of years in the past, they don't get a robe. They collect money at shows, and so they do this for 2 days, and it tabulates all the money that's been collected at all the different shows, and it's the gypsies from the shows do the leading roles from the shows. They get to play the star roles for a change.
Gypsies are the chorus.
The gypsies, right? But some of the stars were there too, as well. So it was Kinky Boots was present, and On Your Feet. The national tourists came in from out of town. It's a lovely idea. I bought my ticket. It's to benefit the Actors Fund, and so I did that. The money that's collected in these red buckets every year, when you go to the theater, when we go to the theater, and we always give when they ask for money for the buckets, goes to Equity Fights AIDS, Broadway Cares,
Broadway
Equity Fights
Cares,
AIDS,
actually, and generally also I think
and the
Phyllis
Actors
Newman's
and
fund
Phyllis
too
Newman.
for cancer.
And it helps actors and anyone in the theater with any kind
Right.
of problems. Once upon a time it was AIDS only, and they collected more this year than ever before, and it was well over $62 million or some crazy amount of money. Oh, but it's nationwide now. It isn't just here now, it's everywhere.
Right. And it's a wonderful cause.
And thank you for letting me give them a plug.
And very, very entertaining, too,
It is.
from
Well,
what,
it's
from
a
what I've
great
told.
deal of fun. I had the last seat in the last row so I could get my leg out, you know, but it was really great.
Great. All right, and that is our show for the evening. And when you go to the theater, look for Leslie and me, us too.
On the aisle.
I worked like a dog 20 years so a punk could have her, so that's what I done. I mean, in the worst times, you know? The worst, when there was no ships coming in the harbor, I didn't stand around looking for relief. I hustled. When there was empty piers in Brooklyn, I went to Hoboken and Staten Island, the West Side, Jersey, all over, because I made a promise. I took out of my own mouth to give to her. I took out of my wife's mouth. I walked hungry. Plenty days in the city, and now I gotta sit in my own house and look at a son of a bitch punk like that. But she came out of nowhere. I give him my house to sleep. I take the blankets off my bed for him, and he takes and puts his dirty, filthy hands on it like a goddamn thief.
But Eddie, she's a woman now.
He's stealing from me.
No, she wants to get married, Eddie. She can't marry you, can she?
What the hell are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
I gave you my advice, Eddie. That's it.